Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Here we have the best maps for Soldier 76 right now in Overwatch 2. And so let's get straight into the swing of things. Of course, if you want to know more, learn more, and watch all that Soldier 76 gameplay, be sure to not only like and subscribe on this YouTube channel for the algorithm, but follow me on twitch.tv/newfrontier_ for that quick Soldier 76 main action. So all that being said, we have 17 maps currently in the current format for Overwatch 2 as far as competitive is concerned. And so these are the maps that I think Soldier 76 works well on. And as you can see, there aren't any maps that he really is bad on. I tried to think of maps that he would really be like not so good in, but I think for the most part, they're either really decent for him or they're just, either above average or they're really, really good. So let's kick things off with the best overall that I feel what make Soldier 76 that strong. So Dorado, first off, right here, this is Dorado. I know you probably can't see it very well, but this is Dorado. And the reason why I love using Soldier 76 on Dorado is the first checkpoint that you are in, you have all the housing around you and you have high ground, giving you an excellent line of sight on the enemy down below. One of the greatest aspects of Soldier 76 is being able to take high ground immediately and just poking enemies down from a range where they can't hurt you, especially against the now meta tanks such as Roadhog or Orisa. Roadhog can probably try and hook you from down below, but if you play really smart and play far enough where he can't touch you, then you have an insane value. And so Dorado is really, really good. Each checkpoint that you do have with this map, Soldier does gain value. There are plenty of flanking areas where you can get a good line of sight on the enemy, good off angles you can take. And again, each checkpoint that you progressively achieve, there's always a high ground for you to take advantage of. So for example, the first point, you have the housing area, which gives you the high ground from the top. Then you have I think it's like the mansion on the right hand side that you can use to run up and then shoot people down below. And then you've got like the third checkpoint where you're inside the building and you can again take off angles and shoot people from any different range. So I'd say that's one of his better maps for sure. And I highly recommend practicing on it to get better with Soldier 76. Next, Colosseo I feel is really strong as well and one of his best, simply because Soldier 76 wants to be at a comfortable range where he can poke and use his damage to essentially push enemies back, scare them away from attacking, basically forcing them out of position enough so that he can get the opportunity to therefore focus on maybe other enemies. So Soldier does spectacularly well on Colosseo because it gives you that one long alleyway. That one long alley is really, really amazing for him, as it gives him immediate line of sight as to who's coming down that choke point. And so you can easily just line up your sights and just consistently get damage. Now, granted, if there is a Widowmaker on the opposing team, then you have to be careful because you don't want to get sniped. But if you're careful enough, you can play your cover pretty well, and you can flank around the glass area to the side and take out supports if you have to, and then disengage and run back to your team as quickly as possible. So because of that, I think it's one of his best, because again, it gives you a lot of opportunity to flank enemies. It's hard for them to know where you're coming from, and because of Soldier 76's speed and mobility, it just gives them a chance to flank and off angles. And depending on the choke point that you're in, especially the bridge, for example, if you're on top of the bridge, you have so much vantage point to pop enemies from afar and just get value from there. Next up, we have Blizzard World. Blizzard World is an interesting one too, because the choke point at the initial choke point is really nice because you only have one single entry, and that's really, really strong for someone like Soldier 76 who's on defense, because when you're attacking, you're the one having to go up the stairs through that single choke point to finally get to the control center to therefore move to the second checkpoint. So the first checkpoint is really good for Soldier because you can play again a high ground with the amusement park rides. So when you go to that particular ride, there's a building on the left hand side on the choke point. Then there's also a flanking area where you can go down the stairs and you can, surprise the enemy from behind. again, there's a lot of different ways in which Soldier can take value and gain a lot of value by playing high ground, by playing around different corners, by peeking at certain different angles and just getting knocks when he needs to. And so definitely Blizzard World is up there as one of his best. Any particular map that gives Soldier the space to move, he has a lot more control of his surroundings and he can sustain himself better. So let's say he's getting shot in Blizzard World, he can run away, he can find a place to hide, you know, pop his E, heal up, and then come back into the fight. And another great thing about Blizzard World is when you're in the midpoint of the map, where you have the big statue and you have like the bridge or the overview, that is like one of the best spots for Soldier to just pick off enemies as they come through the spawn point. So Blizzard World for sure is one of the best overall for Soldier. Very similar to that of Colosseum, where you just have a long line of sight, especially in the second checkpoint, where you can just beam enemies from afar, and they have like no real option other than to run into, you know, cover, or you force them out of position, which is good for you anyway, because then, you know, you can kill them when they're obviously scared. Then next we have Shambali Monastery. This is the new map that just came out, and honestly, this map is surprisingly really good for Soldier as well. Plenty of high ground for you to take, especially on the first checkpoint, second checkpoint, and even the last checkpoint, where you have plenty of ample locations to, once again, you know, play high ground or wrap around, flank, disengage, come back to your team, reset. You know, there's plenty of open areas for Soldier to really take initiative with. And so, for example, when you hit the second checkpoint, or rather the first checkpoint, when you're going up the hill, that's probably the toughest spot you can be in, because that, for someone who's attacking, for example, going uphill is somewhat tough, just because when you as the defender have a higher angle or a higher vantage point than the enemy, it makes it difficult for the enemy to try and engage you. So if Soldier's playing on defense on Shambali, you have that vantage point being the one that's looking down the sights, down the hill, and therefore you can just shoot people as they're trying to progressively advance on you. And then of course, when they get to that checkpoint, you can still run around, go up the hill again, and then you have that nice high vantage point where the window is, and you can just shoot people from that angle as well as they're trying to once again engage you. So in my opinion, I think Shambali is one of the better maps for Soldier 76 right now. Certainly really good. Again, as I said, every checkpoint has advantages for him, and as long as he's able to take cover and utilize them efficiently, you should be pretty good. Next up we have King's Row. King's Row is like a legendary map for many good reasons, and Soldier I think is one of the best on this map too, just because again you have a single choke point at the first control spot, and so once you're able to attack and engage, you can control that point pretty easily. And because you have that one single little archway, which is the single choke point, you can just line up your line of sight and poke anyone who tries to, again, come by surprise. You can also go, for example, to the right hand side and flank the enemy as they're trying to engage you through the choke point, then run back into the control area and re-engage with your team. So again, there's plenty of ins and outs when it comes to King's Row, and also a lot of high ground that Soldier can take and off angle people, which is really fantastic. So King's Row definitely, I would say, is like top 5 for Soldier 76. So that for me, in my opinion, are those like best maps overall for Soldier. One could argue, and I'm still thinking about it, one could argue that even Esperancia is kind of nice just because it's a push map, and typically push maps do favor Soldier because again, it's really a long, you know what, I'll put it up there too. I'll put Esperancia up there just because again, you have this wide playing field to utilize, right? Every push point is really valuable for you. So you have the bridge to play and flank on, or you have the high ground, and then you have plenty of hiding spots to sneak up on the enemy from behind and get value with your ult. And you utilize your maneuverability and just go through the map like a snake almost, and just make it hard for the enemy to track you down. And so Esperancia is really good for that. It really is a map that allows for a little bit more versatility and really complements Soldier's playstyle of wanting to really just be like unhittable. Like you want to be the person that's constantly running around, getting angles, shooting. You know, you have a long line of sight, especially when you're in that like long open area moving towards the last checkpoint. You have so much open room to literally play whatever position you want and just shoot people from whatever distance you favor, whether it be close range or mid range. Long range not so much, because again, damage fall off does come into play, but I think Esperantia as a whole, you have so much of an amusement park to utilize with Soldier 76. Now next we have slightly above average. Now this doesn't mean these maps are bad or anything. It just means that they're definitely better. They're definitely better, but not like amazing like the best overall. I think these ones are great for Soldier 76, and that's a good thing. I think he does well, but he just has to be mindful at times as to where he puts himself, because he can get in trouble. But for the most part, I'd say these are slightly above average, which means that they're pretty close to being the best. But I'd say these are, you know, once again, they're pretty good for him. So Circle Royale, the first checkpoint, whether you're on attack or defense, I do think that this map is pretty good for him. As once you get, if you're, let's say you're on the defender side and you have that bridge, so as you're moving through the first checkpoint, moving up toward the bridge, that particular high ground is really strong for Soldier, as it allows for you to look down your sights on the enemy down below and just beam them. And you know, you can create so much distraction and get a lot of value out of not only his ult, but also his Helix rockets, and just, you know, you beaming them down for free. So that's why I feel like this is really good for Soldier, just because again, that one particular area where you're on the bridge can be of good value. Also the first starting point where you have that other bridge, like little small bridge, you can still use that bridge as well to get some shots off from high grounds. And also the little ledge that you can use just straight ahead of the attacker spawn point can also be of value too, because that's usually where Widowmaker likes to be, but you can also use that for Soldier as well, and that can be of good value for him. Next up is New Queen Street. I think this is also a slightly above average map for him. It's quite similar to Esperantia in that it has a lot of open area where you can really utilize Soldier 76's movement to the best of his abilities, and you can really take a lot of off angles and shoot people from, let's say, the bridge and above the streetcar. And you can also, you know, go into buildings and take angles off of there. You can also flank around the enemy position and go for your ult and get value there. So there's a lot of different things you can do on New Queen Street that allow you to really take a proactive approach and get the most out of Soldier 76. Again, when you hit the second checkpoint where you're moving toward the last checkpoint and you have that blue building that gives you the high ground as well, that can also be utilized where you're just taking, again, shots off of the high ground and just beaming people. You can also flank off to the side and grab people off guard while they're trying to come at you. So New Queen Street, again, very versatile, very optimal for Soldier. I don't think there's anything terrible about this map. It allows Soldier to really get the most out of his kit. And then we have Junkertown. Junkertown is above average for me because, again, it just provides you with a lot of ways to provoke enemy movement. It gives you a chance to really push the enemy and engage them without having to worry so much about there being a closed, confined area where you tend to get pressured more frequently. Like, you know, Ilios is a good example where the map is small and confined, and so characters like Tracer or Reaper can really be a hassle for you in those maps because they really want to be close to get the most value. Whereas with Junkertown, you have a lot of, you know, again, playground to work with, and therefore you can escape, you can re-engage, disengage, for example. You can do a lot of different things which puts you in the position of power. And there are, again, plenty of high ground spots where you can utilize, especially on the first little checkpoint, right? As the attackers are coming out of that spawn point, you have that bridge, or rather that little building, or the archway rather, where you can just stand there and just beam people out of the spawn, which is fantastic. Then next we have Rialto. Rialto has been changed in some respects. Like some of the map has been altered for 5v5, which is fine. But I think this is also pretty good for Soldier 76 as well, just because this map has more high ground than I expected it to have, especially when you're coming over the bridge and you have that building where you can literally just stand there and just pop people coming over the bridge. You've also got of course, the defender, right? Being on the defensive side, you have the attackers coming through their spawn point, and you see them coming over the bridge. You can just pop people from 3 different angles. So you've got like you've got the building on the right, you've got the building on the left, and then of course if you don't want to go in the building, you can just be right in the center behind your tank, and you can pop them as they come over the bridge. So you have plenty lines of sight that you can utilize in Rialto, which makes it very fantastic. And then you've got like other checkpoints where, once again, you can go on top of the balcony, pop people from down below, surprise them with your ult, disengage, re-engage. He just has a lot of different flanking areas in Rialto that he can use, and it's hard for people to keep up with him. So that's a good map for him as well. Eichenwald, I think this is a slightly above average one too. The first checkpoint, in my opinion, is a little bit rough, as if you're the attacker, because you're moving up a hill, so to speak. And so if you're Soldier and you're on the attacking side of Eichenwald, it can be a little bit hard if they have, let's say, a Sojourn or a Widowmaker, just because the moment you turn that corner, you immediately can get sniped, right? Like the moment you even peek your head, a good Widowmaker can just snipe you. So it's important to like really utilize your flanks efficiently to try and get the most value. But once you get past the first checkpoint, I think the rest of the map is where I feel Soldier can still get good value. Not amazing value like other maps, but still enough value to where he can be of great importance to his team. Where he, for example, once you're on that checkpoint where you're going straight down toward the bridge onto the final checkpoint, his line of sight is just straight ahead. So he can use that opportunity to just poke down the enemy and allow for his tank to slowly, inch by inch, engage the enemy and then move towards the final checkpoint. And of course you have the midpoint where you have that large castle, and you can just run inside the castle, flank, go on top of the castle, and just shoot people from the high ground. So that area is really where I think Soldier can really utilize his strength too. But then, as I said, the first checkpoint's a little bit tough if you're on the attacking side. But if you're the defender, Soldier has the value more so than the attacking side. But either way, it's a pretty good map for him. So I'd say slightly above average. Next, Route 66, I think is also above average for him, just because again, you have, as you can see here in the little picture, you have the building, which you can just sit on top of and just literally poke from afar. So as you're the defender, the attacker's coming through this choke point, you can sit on top of the building and just pop people from mid-range and then scare them off. You could also go off up into the little cave section and then play that off angle and shoot people down on the high ground and force them out of position again, making it easier for your tank to do their job. So this map, again, fantastic for Soldier, I think, as well. Not that many problems, I feel, because every checkpoint allows for him to play his role efficiently, right? You have this building on this checkpoint. The next checkpoint, you have the other buildings, which you can run around. You can go on top of the bridge as well and shoot people down as well. And then the final checkpoint, when you're inside the building, you still have that straight line of sight that you can shoot people and poke people down. You can also climb upstairs to those moving blocks or those moving platforms, and you can use that to your advantage as well. Paraiso, I'd say, is pretty above average too. Although on the attacking side, you do have to do more work, just because you are the one moving uphill. It is literally an uphill battle in Paraiso, so it is somewhat of a challenge for Soldier. But I don't think it's terrible, because if you're the defender, you have so much to work with, because you've got the buildings, for example, on the left-hand side, if you can see it, which make it really, really good for you just to take control of enemies trying to flank, or you can take high ground and just shoot people from the top and then kill them from below. You've also got the balcony area at the first checkpoint, so you can play that spot as well if you're defending and shoot people as they try to take control or capture the point. You also have the first building that you see just as the attackers are coming through the choke point. That area also is really effective for Soldier, because you can just hide behind the billboards on the bridge and then shoot people, hide, disengage, reposition, go downstairs, shoot again, run back upstairs to the bridge, and just, you know, rinse and repeat and confuse the enemy as much as you can. So I think Paraiso is really good for that, as it allows for, once again, Soja to play his role efficiently, therefore helping the tank to do their job and the DPS and other supports to do their job respectively as well. Then lastly, on the slightly above average, we have Midtown. Midtown is fantastic, as again, it provides a lot of sustainability for Soja. A lot of great places for him to run around in, to play sneaky, and control the map efficiently with his team. You've got the train that you can use. If people want to be, you know, brave and go through the train, you could always be there to bodyguard the train and literally just beam people, because again, you have the line of sight down the actual alley of the train, so you can just beam someone who tries to be sneaky and come through that area. Again, you've got the single choke point, which is underneath the train, or the bridge rather, so you can be there behind your tank just beaming people from afar, and all you gotta do is be careful not to be sniped by, like, let's say a Widowmaker or whatever. But in most cases, if you play carefully and play smart, you can again flank and disengage and engage and find spots to again line your sights up efficiently to get the most kills. And then decent, these are maps that I think Soja can be okay on, but not excel as well in, just because of the more close quarters type of initiative that these maps are all known for. So first off, we have Ilios, and Ilios, in my opinion, it's one of like my worst maps in terms of just like overall consistency. I find that whenever I play on this map, I have a tough time trying to really get the best angles possible, as it's so confined in space that, you know, a Pharah can easily be annoying, an Echo can be annoying for you, and even when you are trying to flank, it's such a small gap between you and the enemy that flanking them can be tricky at times. And what's also dangerous is in Ilios, you have that large little well that a Roadhog or a Orisa can boop you in, or a Lucio can boop you in. So it is really, really tough at times to get the most value out of this particular map. Also, like I said earlier in the video, you have, you know, Tracer, you've got Reaper, you even got Symmetra, who can really just kind of really glue that position down really well, better than you can. And because they're really more of a close quarters combat type of character, it makes it hard for you to get a lot of insane value on your kills, because your ult really works best in maps where you have a lot of open range and the enemy can't really run away. But in Ilios, if you use your ult ineffectively, there's so many walls and points where, you know, enemies can easily just hide behind a wall and you lose value. Like, the only real true value you get is when everyone's kind of in that well area, but not, you know, at a higher level. You're not going to be just in that one spot. You're going to be running around doing a lot of things. So for that, I think it's decent. Not amazing, but it's not terrible either, but it can be better. Next, this is Nepal, I believe. And so this map, I think, is decent because, again, it's a very close quarters map. Symmetra, Reaper, Tracer, these characters excel at these maps because of the close quarters range where they do a ton of damage. And so you've got to be really, really like super mindful as to how you utilize it. And at times I have a decent win rate on this map, but I do find it difficult when you have, like, let's say an Orisa blocking a choke point, or Reinhardt or Roadhog blocking the checkpoint. Even Doomfist makes it hard for Soja in this map as well. So for that, I think it's decent. It's really a 50-50. You know, it really comes down to what your team comp is, but also it comes down to just a lot of different factors, and a lot of those factors typically go against you. And then next we have Busan. And Busan, I think it's decent. Like, it's, maybe some could argue that it's actually above average, but I think it's decent. It gives Soja enough range to play his role, but it's still small enough where he can still be pressured by, again, close range combat characters who can really just distract him and put pressure on him. And it's like not really a good place to be running around that often. You can, but, you know, someone like Torbjorn can set up turrets and kill you, or even a Moira can kill you. Just enemies who have a really strong close range quarters type of capability make it hard for him on Busan. So I think that's decent. Now, for some reason, I don't know where Lijiang Tower is. I can't see it on this map. So I'm just going to, I'll just use this one. It looks like Russia, but I'll just use this. I'll put Lijiang in slightly above average. I think Li Jiang is okay. I think this is totally fine for him. Again, you have that little bridge that goes over into the control point, which can be good because it allows you to just peek that bridge, and you can just, you know, obviously shoot people as you try to come over it. You also have the flanking area where you can go to the right hand side, and you know, you can go in and go around to the other part of the control point and control that area as well. So I think it's okay for Soldier. It's certainly better than the decent maps, and it has a little bit more wiggle room for you to work with. But other than that, I think that's about it as far as the maps go. So all that being said, I do hope this video has given you a little bit of insight as to what I think the best maps are for Soda 76 right now. Of course, things will change over time, but if you want to see everything live and you want to see everything, you know, explained in detail as I'm playing the game, then be sure to like and subscribe, but also follow me on twitch.tv/newfrontier_ for more. Until then, see you folks on Twitch. See you folks later. Take care and have a good one. Peace.